Hi, it's me, your host, Greg Kellogg, and I understand that we can't get to everything that you would like us to cover. However, if you leave a comment, we'll be sure to try to at least answer it in the comments. Also, if you would like and share this video and subscribe to the channel, we would really appreciate it. Today we're going to talk about Ecuador. Ecuador is a small country on the northwest coast of South America. It's surrounded by Colombia to the north and Peru to the east and south, and the Pacific Ocean to the west. Ecuador takes its name from the fact that it lies right on the equator, and from Quito you can actually go and see a monument to the equator that has a small gift shop and surrounding hills, but the tower in the middle is the big sign. That shows you where the equator is, and on the ground they've got the lines marked for the equator. Ecuador has a relatively low cost of living when compared to San Antonio. San Antonio is actually one of the cheaper cities that you can live in the United States. So when you look at the consumer prices in Quito being about 20% lower than San Antonio, you know you're doing okay. But if you look at the local purchasing power and the rent prices, you can see you can save a lot of money if you choose to move to Ecuador. Another thing about Ecuador is the weather. We were in Quito. Quito weather was ideal for my wife. Janie loves it cool. I like it hot. So we have a little bit of a conundrum there. Quito's up in the mountains, so the oxygen is thin. It did get to me a little bit. But the weathers, they were in the mid to upper 60s, low 70s while we were there. And if you look at the chart, year-round, it's pretty much the same. They stay in the mid to upper 60s for highs, and the lows in, upper 40s to mid 50s. If you don't like that kind of weather, you can always move on. Guayaquil is in the rainforest, the tropical rainforest. If you prefer it warmer like I do, you can always choose to settle in Guayaquil. Guayaquil has much warmer weather. Its highs are in the 80s, pretty much year-round, low 80s to upper 80s, and its lows are basically in the 70s, although they do have a month or two where it gets down to the 60s. The problem with Guayaquil is they get a lot of rain because they're tropical rainforest. Now, if you don't like that, maybe you should consider Manta. Manta is on the coast, on the Pacific coast. Its weather is also warm, from the upper 70s to the mid 80s as highs, and from the low 70s to, basically the low to mid 70s is the lows. So it's going to be a lot warmer, but it's not going to have the rain that Guayaquil does. So Ecuador offers whatever you want in terms of weather. I mentioned that we stayed in Quito. Quito was a quaint city. It's a large city. It's up in the mountains, which give it picturesque views. It is a beautiful area to be in. Just walking down from the street from where we stayed, I look to the left and I see the mountains you see in this picture. And if you walk in the other direction, you're going to find a skate park, a nice little flat area where kids can skateboard. It's been tagged modern style, that little local art flavor. It just shows that Quito has really a lot to offer if you just walk around the city. Quito is a religious city. Churches in Old Town in Quito, there are churches on almost every corner, and they're very ornate with beautiful art, sculptures like the one with the cross that you see here. There are statues in their city squares, and overall, overlooking Quito Old Town is what they call the Angel of Quito. That's a huge statue that you can go up to, and a lot of tourists do. I did not on this trip, but it was very interesting to me to see it, and we got some good pictures of it. And again, Quito, like most metropolitan cities, is a city of contrasts. You have museums in Quito. You have a lot of things in Quito. But Quito also has modern art, and it's got more traditional art that you see in the second photo. They've got modern malls with mimes that may perform and give your lady a rose and try to sweep her off her feet. That was in a local mall, actually. And they've got movie theaters, which in this case just happened to be bordered by a Chili's. So it's a taste of home. We actually ate at that Chili's before we went to see Guardians of the Galaxy. I had hoped to see it in English, but it was, other than the music, was all Spanish. A lot of tourists go to Ecuador to visit the Galapagos Islands, and we didn't do that on this trip. We weren't on the rainforest, the tropical rainforest, and we weren't on the coast at Manta, so I can't really tell you what to do from there. But if you happen to go to Quito, Janie and I did 4 trips, 4-day trips from Quito. 3 of them out of the EFO shopping center, where our travel agent had an office. They would pick us up there in the morning. There'd be a bus or a van, depending on the number of people in the tour, and an English-speaking guide. Now, the first one we did was the Otavalo Market. The Otavalo Market is a world-famous old world market where they sell everything from handmade goods like alpaca sweaters, alpaca blankets that this lady specialized in, to handmade jewelry items. And you can see a bunch of them on this table made out of silver. Janie loved those, by the way. We also saw blankets and lace type hangings. But I think the thing that surprised me the most was that we saw livestock just being led around by leashes to get to the market to sell there. Now, the Otavalo Market will not take up a full day. They only spent a couple, 3-4 hours there, so we had time to do other things. One of the things that we did on this trip was we went to see where they make bread. There's a video coming up that will go over all that. And then another one was a chocolate factory where they took us in. They sold chocolate and everything, but they also took us into the back where they actually processed the beans to make the chocolate. And we have a video of that one. So we'll show both those videos and be back right after the video.
Bakeries, but we are still working with an oven heated by wood. You can see the wood is over there. Later they clean this area and they put the pistachios inside of this oven. Later you can turn around in this direction and you can see that the same oven has another opening from the other side. Here you can see the mass. They make in the morning the mass, and later they put it on the table, and you can see how the people make the small gazpacho cakes. Here it is already prepared. It's the oven is clean. They put all these plates inside of the oven.
There's some protection so that the cacao doesn't absorb the flavour of the wood. That's an optional extra. If you wanted to do oat fermented chocolate, you could do that. For us, just like this. This I put in this morning. It's not really much to see at the moment, but you get an idea of how it is left for the first 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
It's starting to go. There's also a hint of a fermenting smell, but it will get a lot stronger than that before it's ready. And it actually, once it's really got going, it gets quite hot. It gets up to about 50 degrees, and it's full of insects and things, and it looks quite unattractive. It's actually enough to put you off chocolate for life, which I'll show you now. So after the first 2 days in there, we will freshen up the leaves, give it a mix through, so it's equally fermented right the way through, and put it in the second container for a 3rd day. And then again the 3rd container for a 4th day, and at the end of the 4th day it looks like this. So, and that is still generating a little bit of heat. It was hotter before, but a lot of the sugar's now been used up. Don't worry, I'll say. A lot of the sugar's now been used up, so it's starting to cool down, which indicates that it's coming to the end of its fermentation. So that is how we go about killing the seed. It's not enough just to dry the seed. If you just dry the seed, you can rehydrate it in 6 months and still grow a tree. The embryo is still alive. But with this process, we actually achieve killing the seed and that will allow then the chocolate flavour to develop and the chocolate aroma and the chocolate colour. So the kind of the benchmark test at the end of the 4-day period is has it started to cool down, which in this case it has, and we're going to open up a couple of the beans and check inside to see whether or not the little embryo has started to change colour. So here you can see, whereas before, I don't know, did I show you the white embryo? Maybe, yeah. It was a bright white before, and now it's started to go purple, the same colour as the rest of the body of the seed. Within another few hours, that'll be indistinguishable, and that indicates that it's died, and then we can put it here to dry. And it takes about 20 days in Mindo to dry the seeds, because of the humidity level, they don't ever get completely dry. But on the coast where we're doing this, it works in about 14 days, and they're dried directly with the benefit of the sun, so that works a lot faster. And during the drying period comes the chocolate flavour. If you want to cop hold of one of these each, try and find a nice round one. I'll pass a few down here. And if you're tough enough, here you go, pass these out for me, look. You can sit them on the edge, on the wood, and you should be able to just crunch it and then sprinkle it into your hands. So you've got the, there you go. You've got now a little bit of a hint of a chocolate aroma, and this is the nibs of cacao.
I don't think I'm tough enough.
No. People buy the nibs of cacao in a health food shop. These are about halfway ready. I'll trade you. There we go. These are about halfway there. So I'm having some trouble at the end there as well.
So what do we do with the
Do they put it in the mouths to taste it?
If you want to, you can eat the nibs. Yeah, you don't want to eat the shell, but you can eat the nibs to taste it, and it's kind of halfway developed. So you can.
When you say can.
Our last stop for the day was to the Cotacachi Reservoir. It's a lake that's formed in the bowl of an inactive volcano. We had actually two methods of getting to a viewing point. One Janie took, that was up a trail and then down the trail. Because of my knee, I opted to just walk up the road to the visitor center. I got to see some things inside the visitor center that Janie missed. And then I got back down. I had a good view. You can look at the lake view, and this is the one I got. I'm not sure Janie got any better. But that was it for this first day trip. Our second day trip was also to a market, this one the Quilotoa Market. It's a little bit different than the Otavalo Market in that there are things there that we didn't see. One of the things was I actually got to see a lady spinning the yarn from the alpaca fur in order to prepare her goods to sell. Another thing we saw a lot of was fish. There were an awful lot of fish for sale on this market. And I saw something I'd never seen before. There were actually some buckets made out of used tires. I just hadn't seen that before, and it just shows what people can do when they need to. A lot of livestock. Here you see a live pig, but we saw a bunch of animals. We saw pigs, goats, chickens, just a lot. And one of the things we also saw were hamsters or groundhogs. I don't really know the difference, but if you look in this picture, you can see some. Now, these are important because we're going to show you a little bit about country life next. Country life and country living, it's not easy in the mountains of Ecuador. And as you can see by this family, they live in cinder block houses without heating and air conditioning. Up in the mountains, you don't need the air conditioning, but the heat would be nice. And they grow these groundhogs, these prairie dogs, I don't know what you want to call them. Anyway, they grow them to sell in the market, and they're used as a staple of their food. Our guide explains it all in the next video.
Or when they need to get money, they take these animals and they go to the market to sell. Okay, and that is the reason outside we can see many dogs, because sometimes Julian with his family they have to go away to work far away. So in this case, the dogs take care of the house, because outside there are wild animals like a pumas or fox. Okay, they can come to eat these animals.
Our last day trip from Ifosh was to Mindo, and that's a place where I was able to check off a few things from my bucket list. The first thing we did was we went and we stopped at a butterfly farm that also had hummingbirds. The flora was just outstanding. Janie fell in love with the plants. Me, I kind of like the butterflies. In this picture, you can see a plate with some bananas on it that attracted a couple butterflies for us to go look. Now, true story, to get from the butterflies to the hummingbirds, I had to go past a goose. This stupid goose goosed me right in the ass. I swear to God, put it right on my butt. But I still got to see some very pretty hummingbirds, as you can see in the video. But once we were done with the butterflies and the hummingbirds, we headed off to a zipline place. And yes, we did zipline. I'm going to let you listen as Janie goes down. Not to be outdone, I also got up on the zip line, and I know what you're thinking. Yeah, he got up, but he never went down. Watch the video. Our last stop on that tour was to a place where you could go actually do some swimming in a river. Now, we didn't bring our swimsuits. It looked like it was going to rain, and you had to go down a muddy trail to get to where you could jump in the river. I wasn't willing to do that. So, and Janie stayed with me this time. We stayed up, got some fresh squeezed orange juice, and were introduced to a new fruit. Now, this fruit, you open it up, you take the pod out, and you chew the silk off the seed. You're not supposed to eat the seed, but like an idiot, I tried it. Kind of nutty taste, but it turned real bitter afterwards. What we missed, a young Australian girl did, as you'll see in this video.
Wow. Oh. Wow. Oh my God.
She really did jump. And she got back out safely. They came up the hill. And then the next trip we took, we didn't go to Ifosh. My daughter Paula suggested we take a one-day train trip to an alpaca farm. So that's what we did. We bought 3 tickets, hopped on a train, saw some beautiful countryside, mountains everywhere. We're going down the hill a little bit, but not way down. And we got to see farmers tilling their fields by hand. We got to see the alpacas, but even more impressive, I think, we got to see local dancers, and I even got to see a gentleman serenade a goose. The last thing I want to talk about is the food. They fed us on every trip we took. Great food, better than I expected actually, served often by waitresses dressed in local clothing. And, you know, on the trips we would sit at long tables with other people on the trips with us. It was just outstanding. Food was great, people were great. I gotta say, if you want to take a nice vacation or find a nice place to retire to, you can't beat Ecuador. Hi, thanks for watching. That's our video for this week, and if you really liked it, you can click on the playlist over there. But if you'd like to see our latest video, you can click on the playlist over there. And of course, we would love it if you would subscribe by clicking on the logo up there.